Welcome to Endurance Icons, where we talk to athletes who are inspiring and excelling in the world of endurance sports. We're your hosts, Mark and Jessica Cullen. And oh my gosh, today's episode was so much fun. We talked to Alison Jackson. Now, Mark, how would you describe Alison?
Oh man, first of all, as a cyclist, Alison has absolutely crushed it. Her 2021, so epic, went to Tokyo Olympics, did the rare double Canadian championship where she won the road race and the time trial. I think she won a world tour stage and also was sixth at world champs. So she's done it
She's
all.
fierce.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, she's a sick bike racer. But I think the coolest thing about her is her social media is so awesome. Guys, seriously, before you even listen to this episode, pause this, take 5 minutes and go through her Instagram, Ali Action Jackson on Instagram, and take 5 minutes, go through her videos. You will appreciate this chat so much more. She is hilarious and fresh for bike racing, just so much fun.
You know, I think one of the things that I loved most about this conversation is just how real she is. And you're going to see this in, so often when you perform at a level that high, you can be a little bit more earnest or you can take it so seriously. And, she is this incredible athlete, but there's such an element of fun. And, like Mark said, if you follow her, you will want to scroll all the way through and watch every single video. We were crying yesterday when we were going through it. So again, follow it and please enjoy the show. Alison is a very special person. So many incredible stories, and you are not going to be able to help but feel inspired. So enjoy the show today. Welcome, Alison. We're so happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. What an intro. I love it.
So I've talked about your social media. Anyone who follows you, it brings a lot of joy. You have this incredible positive energy, and also your dancing videos are amazing. How did you start with sort of your brand on social media that has you, bringing a lot of some quirky, fun dances and then melding that with cycling?
Yeah, it's not that I set out as a plan to sort of meld these two together or even to start this as what would be my brand. It's really just authentically who I am and my personality. Ever since I was a kid, I always made my siblings be a part of ridiculous little videos that we would make. And then really it was 2020 in the pandemic, I had a lot of extra time on my hands and I knew I needed to laugh. And that's also when sort of TikTok came out as a platform to just make videos. And so yeah, all that time on my own. And then I would be making these videos and I would be laughing totally on my own by myself. And then thinking oh, I got to share this with other people. And then also wondering sometimes have I made an inside joke with myself that it's really only going to be funny to me and it's not going to connect with anyone else? But seem to get a lot of positive feedback from it. And then I just love interacting with people who also just are sharing in my joy over it. So yeah, and then also for me, I have a high value on life balance. So with the cycling is pretty serious. And yeah, this other side of life just, keeps it fun. Or, when you have life balance, then if one side is going well and the other side's not going well, you have something else to, keep the positivity kind of going. So
I think that's what makes you stand out so much online as well, because to your point, it is serious. Cycling it's very intense. It's often very, I would say more earnest is what you see across athletes on the sport, of sharing more focus on, racing and how you're optimizing. And then you come along and you're doing all of these things. You're performing at a high level, you're racing at a high caliber, but you're still bringing so much joy. So I guess, how do you come up with your ideas that they're so funny, they're so creative? Do you spend a lot of time or do you wait till they just sort of come to you?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, I get these ideas, and this is basically where I'd be this is why I believe in God, because how do these things come? They just come into my brain. And then, yeah, so, I have like a bunch of lists on my phone basically, because sometimes, I mean, on a long bike ride, you'll be riding with friends or whatever, and then, you know, start talking nonsense or you come up with some idea. But I'll take that and then I'll do it for real, where, you know, sometimes you'll come up with, oh, that would be so funny. But then you just leave it as the thought. But I'll take that and I'll have a list of all these ideas where sometimes like I run through them a little bit more or build them out. So that when I have a rest day or, you know, some extra space sometime, then I have already ideas of what to do. Or a lot of times with dance videos, like that's just something I love to do in my spare time, just like practice some dance things or make up or have dance parties on my own or whatever. But then I'll also have a few in the back of my mind in case my teammates ever want to join. Then I have a few that I can teach real quick so that it keeps everyone interested. Because I think if you ask my teammates, they would say, oh yeah, like Alison makes these videos in like 2 takes, 1 take maybe. Like it's amazing. It's done over in 10 minutes. But that's not the real truth of it. It's just with them, I try to make it really manageable pieces so that they'll always say yes when I'm like, hey, does anyone want to film a TikTok?
And that, I mean, you go all out. There's smoke machines, and some of your dances are complex. When I was looking through them, we were looking at, you know, what some of the things we're going to ask you. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, do you have a favorite out of all the videos that you've made?
Probably one of my recent favorite ones is when I do cycling, but make it fashion.
It
So
100%. I think that's my favorite. We were crying. We were laughing so hard. We'll link to it in the show notes so that everyone can see it.
I think partly why that one is my favorite is actually it took a lot of pre-planning. Like I had this idea, but then I really had this one idea based on what I call the Madonna bra, which was like the 2 rear cassettes that you'd use as like a bra. And then, but then like yeah, to make a video, you have to make like some outfit. So then I was just like listing all the random like bike parts and things I have in the house. And then how could you make outfits out of them? And then I had a few like friends come to just like help me like situate some of these things. So it took like some time to build it out, but then yeah, I just think it's so clever and then also very funny.
Yeah, there was some serious production value there. And just I believe that you took cycling shoes and you actually like somehow attached heels to them, I think in your second look. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, this also I had a pair of like heels, but it's just like a toe strap sandal. And we had Shimano like clip pedals, but you know, in Shimano you like clip kind of the front in and then slam down. So then the front I just like clipped in, if you will, to like the toe strap on the shoes, and then like it has like a little ankle strap. And then there it was. And it totally worked. Even with my carbon shoes, I could literally walk around. I also thought it was so funny.
I think my other favorite video that you have made is the drop challenge, but you did the cycling version. Like it is a perfect example of you don't take yourself too seriously, but what is a really unique balance that I find is we've talked about your high performance and we've talked maybe about your quirky and very talented dancing side, but you mentioned God. And I know that one of your life philosophies is, you know, do well with what you have right now, which I think is a verse from Matthew. So I'd love to talk a little bit about, that's your life philosophy. When did you arrive at that, and sort of what was your journey to that mindset?
Yeah, so I mean, I come from like a faith background, from a Christian family. So some of those values are kind of like in my background, but really what this, do well with what you have right now. I think it's like, especially in sport, you know, and I started in cycling quite late. Like I was 25 when I signed my first contract, or when I really started cycling. Got my first bike when I was 19, so that's quite late. But I think sometimes maybe we focus on the things that we don't have, like, oh, you know, if I had started earlier, then I probably would be world champion now. Or, oh, well, all the girls in Europe, they're way ahead of me because they, you know, they've been steeped in cycling culture or whatever. But that none of that is really helpful. So then I just think, and I also just like believe we're all every human is so valuable in their own really unique like makeup, how they've been made. And so then I just think like, okay, how do we exploit basically all the like good things that we see and what we have, or how can we, when we're pushed like really to the limit, can we, it's like a generate creative survival, basically. I think when we're really like pushed to the limit, then we have to get creative with our situation. And so I think just a lot of times in my life, I'll just like take stock of what I have right now. And so even when so first I kind of got into the triathlon before I became a cyclist. And how that happened was really, I was just at one time running, swimming and biking, but for totally different reasons. And then someone said, oh, you should do a triathlon. And I said, a what? Like, what is that? and then entered like the Kelowna Apple Tri. That was like a qualifier for Worlds, and qualified for Worlds in like the U19 category or whatever. And then, okay, I have a little bit of, so then let's just take stock of what I have. I have a little bit of talent for this. I also had won some other triathlon races. So then some of that's like a financial thing. So what can I do with what I have right now? And then just like really dig into that and then try to manage some of the cons. And that's the same, that's the attitude I take into every professional team that I go on to, because for every team, there's going to be really good things, but there's also, no team is perfect. There's always going to be issues and problems. So then let's look at what the really good things that they're offering, and then let's totally dive into that or exploit those things, like dig into those, and then just sort of manage the rest of it. But when if we live without a sort of grateful attitude, or if we're always looking where the gaps are, then I don't think we're really getting the most out of what we've been given. So yeah, that's a little bit how my philosophy of life goes.
That's an incredible philosophy. And it's so important to have that deeper purpose or why, especially when races do get tough, because I mean, if you're just doing it for the purpose of the sport, you won't last long. And like you said, you arrived a little bit later in cycling. You first started in triathlon. I'd love to talk a little bit more about, that path and what it was like to make that transition from triathlon into cycling. Because I think one of the key changes is you completely race differently. It's not just you versus you. Suddenly there's all of these tactics. It's almost like a game. You need to constantly be reading everything that's happening around you. And it's often, the smartest rider wins. So talk to us a little bit about what that transition was like.
Yeah, at least like for me, when I was a triathlete, I swam with the swim club. I ran with the university running club. And I cycled with a local club. And I think that was really important for my cycling development, to always be riding in bunch rides, or, doing the kind of local crit circuit, Wednesday nighters or whatever. Because a lot of times, right, the kind of bashing against triathletes is that they always train alone, and then they're, not good at the bike handling. But I think also, for me, I've always had such a desire to win, or to just be excellent at whatever I do. And then sometimes that is like at all costs, or like I'm so jazzed about trying to make this happen no matter what, which makes me fearless. And most of the time, by being fearless, I get pretty awesome. Sometimes it's really bad, but usually I get pretty awesome. So yeah, then that's a little bit of how, why coming into cycling, then I could manage sort of the extra chaos and stuff that is involved in cycling. But yeah, I think after university, really, I sort of had I just wanted to be a professional athlete and an Olympian. If someone had told me, oh, you have the body type and the power to be a rower, you'd be an Olympian, I'd be like, okay, I'll do it. Because I think I just love what the human body can do. And the human body is so adaptable to training and whatever. And I just am competitive and want to be good at something. But what landing on cycling, what I do really love about it is that it's such a strategy game. And I love playing the game. And so, yeah, you do have to be fit. You have to be talented. You have to know how to ride your bike. But there's so many little ways of how you use your power and when that can really get you to win a bike race over other athletes who are, down on paper, better watts per kilo or have a more watts in the sprint. Because in the end of a bike race, it's really how you play the game.
What were some of the things that you did to sharpen that game? Because that there is that transition. How did you learn to make better use of your power? Was this just riding with your team, or were there some other things that you layered on top of that?
Yeah, so a bit of where I see where I'm talented is having this race feel. So when I in my first year, I came over to Europe to do a couple of races, and it's chaotic and crazy, but I could just feel it in the race that when it got more intense, and I just matched it. I just got more intense. Or I could feel the bunch that there's something coming up. And, for Dutch riders and Belgian riders in these like classics in Belgium, there's so many turns and small roads, but everyone knows, these key moments. But I have no idea, but I could just sense in the bunch that other people are stressing. So if they're stressing, I'm going to stress too, and I'm going to get there first. So it's interesting now, like I have that feeling, but then to try to teach that to other riders or to break that down to make it a little bit more coachability out of it has been a new challenge for me. So I think, and then also I think it's just that I really keenly wanted to be the first one across the finish line. And so then I was fearless, in the bike race. And that's why if things got more chaotic, then I just entered with the same sort of chaos.
Is there a typical role you play for the team, or does it kind of change depending on the stage or the certain type of race you're doing?
Yeah, it'll change. And I think I also love that about bike racing too. And we see, in the men's peloton, it's been very specialized for a long time, where pure climbers are set for the pure mountain stages. And then you have sprinters that are hired for that specific role of a crazy bunch sprint. And then you have sort of the classic riders and that are the 1 day specialists in a hard kind of grueling race, and the domestiques who do the job to help their winners win. And we see that growing a little bit more, the specialization in women's cycling, as basically the economy of women's cycling is growing and the field is getting deeper. So yeah, I love that there are races where I get to be leader, where I get to put my hand up and the team supports me to try to get the win and the result. And then, but there's other girls on my team that can do things I cannot do. Those long 15K mountain stages, that is not something that I'm going to win. And so I'm so happy that I have teammates who can do that. And then in the end, I just want to be a difference maker, and I want us to win in any way, how the best person to win. So yeah, I love getting to play the teammate role. And then, you invest in your teammates, and then later those teammates invest in you for a win. And then, now being a little further into my career, I get to also play the team captain role, which is a fun one, more, making decisions on the road, a little bit more strategy. And that part is really fun too, playing the game.
Nice. And you got that role right away. Like, I know you're with a new team this year with EF Education. Like, you hopped right into kind of a team leader role with them right away.
Yeah, I always think that in order to be a team captain, your teammates need to vote for that to happen, because really, to be a trusted team captain, the only way that you have a good position is if your teammates are going to follow what you say or believe that you can make the decisions in the race. And then otherwise, like team leader for some of the classics races. When I was hired by the team, they really had a gap for these 1-day hard classic races. They have a pretty good stage race team, some good mountain climbers, but they're really missing this kind of aggressive, resilient rider. So being hired for that role also was really exciting for me.
And how many days have you already raced this year? It looks like I see like every time EF Education puts a post up, it's like Alison Jackson's on the start list for them. So how many days have you raced already?
Yeah, we've had basically 2 races every weekend since, well, almost in February. February we had, I think, 8 race days. And then, we're just early into March and have had about 4 race days. Although our last 2 were cut short because of the snow, but yeah.
Fun spring racing. So is there like an ideal race that like when you look on the calendar, you're like, oh, this one sets up well for me? Is it like these 1-day classics or a stage race? You said you don't necessarily love maybe the mountain stages as much. What's like your ideal stage or ideal race?
Yeah, these classics, the kind of like tough weather or anything that's really extreme. So even the extreme heat I do well in, or extreme cold, or the wind, or something that just makes it sort of baller, I just love. These early spring kind of classics are technical races. There's some really like key points, and then short, sharp climbs, that kind of stuff. It is my favorite. And then but honestly, I just love racing. So really sometimes with the team, when they manage me as an athlete, they really just have to help me say no to some races, or because you're not gonna be able to peak for every weekend for the 3 months of spring when you have all these races. But I think there's we have again, Wevelgem has a really fun cobbled steep climb circuit with the usually kind of a sprint finish, and if it's windier, that's better. And then a few of the other kind of classics. Flanders, there's some smaller kind of the 1-day races along the way. Paris-Roubaix is also quite an adventure to be on when you're in that race. And then there's a few stage races later in the season that I've always done well at. Tour Britain is kind of a pretty lumpy kind of race, and or Tour Scandinavia. I've won the sprint jersey there a number of times. Want to get that stage win or an overall kind of victory there. And then usually a lot of races that are kind of in the northern part of Europe are a little better for me. Belgium, Netherlands.
The Canadian toughness in you definitely helps there. We're used to all the weather here, right? The peak of summer and the terrible winters. It's just like Europe's pretty tame compared to that.
That's right. If you ask my parents, my dad would say, "Oh, because you grew up on a farm and you're farm tough, and that's why you learned how to work hard and handle all these rough weather, and that's what makes you a good bike racer."
All the rock picking.
It. That's exactly it.
What is rock picking? I am not familiar with this term. I did not grow up on a farm.
I was explaining it to him yesterday, where you're in the field, and to properly make use of the field, you need to get rid of all the rocks, and it's sometimes days of work, and you're throwing it into a wagon. He was like, there isn't something that makes this easier, like that it's still that level of manual labor. He's like, well, I grew up doing it. I read somewhere that you did this as well, so I think it builds athletes. You're going to attribute your success to starting in rock picking on a bison farm.
That's so amazing. That's also something I tell my teammates, like, oh, back when I was young, I didn't play games after school. I went in the field and rock picked by hand. Or we had it when we were real young kids in the field, and then me and my siblings, it would take 2 of us to drive the truck along. One would have to push on the gas pedals and the brake pedals, and the other one would drive a little bit, so we'd move a little, and then you'd pick up the rocks and put it in the back. Yep.
Oh my, rock picking. That is wild. Maybe I need to add that into my like athletes training schedules when I'm getting them in their key cycling blocks. Maybe that's the answer to making
Totally.
world-class athletes here. Too good. So you've been at this for a number of years, making it a pro career. What did you have some like early challenges in actually making this a career? Did you think this was like a possibility along the way, like as you were early in it, or like what were your struggles along the way?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I never set out to be a pro cyclist. I just really, as opportunities come, I'm just a yes person. So you say yes and you see where it goes and collect stories along the way, basically. And yeah, I think I had met a couple of pros through like my cycling club on the west coast of Canada, and you could make it. I knew you could make it a career as a professional cyclist, where you would get paid just enough to, eat and try to make a dream come true. And then, but really, I think it. And then me and my partner at one time we lived a van life for a little while, because partly because it's really fun, but also like that's the how we could actually live. And it really wasn't until coming to Europe and then seeing some success that and the women's economy of sport has really grown in popularity, and there's a the fans have really spoken out that they want to see more and are supporting it. And so, it's just growing the economy of it, and it's become more competitive to get contracts. And teams need to, pay more to buy riders to be on the team. And so, it really hasn't been since, maybe 2019 was kind of where it was growing up and up. And now I think, it's a much more sort of stable career.
It's amazing. So cool to make it a pro career. I want to talk about some of this success, because especially that 2021, when you look at that year, that was just like a wild year for you, with like Olympics in there, double Canadian championship, World Tour stage win, I believe, too, and like a great result at World Champs. Take us through a little bit of that year and like of that whirlwind. Did you expect to have that success? Like run us through that year a little bit and the emotions you were going through there.
Yeah. I mean, you always think, right, I was top 30 this year, and then next year, I'm top 20, and then next year, I'll be top 10. Year after that, I'll be winning it. But really, once you get into that top 10, from 10th to 1st, that's a really, really hard. So you have to finesse your way to get there. I think in 2021, I just had really great support from my team. And I also, 2020, we didn't have a lot of racing, but we did a lot of training. I rode more miles that year than I ever have. And I think we created this real deep base of fitness and injury free. And then took the next year just some more intensity, but not as much volume. And it really, those 2 years built just a really strong Alison, and took that into the racing. And I think also a lot of people were really focused on the Olympics. And at that time, I was an alternate for the team, so I wasn't. That wasn't my only motivation for the year, or for the 2 years leading in. And so I could pick some different goals and different process goals, and then really hit those. And I found that in the end, I got the last minute call to go to the Olympics. But I think I had this really fresh mentality out of it, and also going to the Olympics then, which is another like dream come true for me. But when I went, I just felt like it was all bonus. It was bonus for me that I got to go. It was bonus for my teammates that they had another teammate. It was a bonus for Canada. They had another athlete. And I came in just with a really fresh attitude. And I would have liked to prepare for it differently, or a little more specific, instead of just getting thrown in. But then we're back to my, do well with what you have right now. And all I can do is the best with what I've got. And so taking that into the race, and I did perform super well. And then I think after that, I still had such a great, I wasn't so fatigued mentally. Whereas a lot of people, I mean, everyone goes into the Olympics with the hope and for the chance of a win. And there's only one winner, and there's way more broken hearts than there are triumphs. But I was one of the few that really like triumphed out of that experience, and then took that level of fitness and motivation and joy basically into the rest of the season. And just, yeah. And I think once you kind of taste a little bit of success, then you back yourself. You have to be your own best cheerleader. And took that into different races. And also the culture of the team was super good. We had a lot of great riders. So then it allowed me to take some more chances, be bold in some races. And that's how I got the World Tour stage win. And then all these things just, build up your confidence. And going into the World Championships that year, also, my best result ever. But we had a team of 3. The 2 girls that were my teammates there have since retired, Leah Kirchman and Caroline Canuel. But they really saw this course as one that was going to suit me. And those 2 girls are heavy hitters. They are great riders. And when you have 2 studs telling you that, this is the course for you, we're going to ride for you, we're going to support you, it's just this positive, I call it positive pressure. For sure, it's pressure when, and also, when people say, oh, I hope you do well, but no pressure. Well, for sure, there's always going to be pressure. And what makes a champion is how you handle that pressure, what you do with that. And I think, it was really positive pressure to have these other girls that just are backing you. They're doing everything for you. And it just, raises my level too. So, and, sometimes in sport, we like to do all that we can to peak for moments. But as we know, like as human bodies and as humans that experience life and not just like the mechanics of sport and training, it takes sort of a magical or, all these pieces to like really come together for a special moment. And 2021 was just for my sporting life, a lot of these things all just came together really well. And one of my best year to date, really.
Yeah, that was an epic year, fun one to follow. It seems like you really love like the team aspect of it. Like you were talking about kind of your amazing year there, and you kept jumping back to like how important those teams were and those experiences to you. So what, like, did you grow up playing a bunch of team sports, or have you always just like, what makes you love this team atmosphere so much?
Yeah, well, for sure. I love people. And I remember in 2020, when I was on Sunweb, we had, as a team, we took, the Myers-Briggs personality test. Mm-hmm. And on this test, I scored 99% extrovert. But really, it's like in the team setting, I just love meeting new people or entertaining people. I'm the entertainer. I love having people laugh and helping other people have a good time. So, and I did play a lot of team sports growing up. When you're from a small town and you want to play one sport, you have to play all the sports so that you have a team. But I think more so my love of the team is just really valuing humans. And I just find people so interesting and what motivates them. And then also the value in a bike race of, I've tried in a number of teams and programs before to win on my own when I haven't had the team support or the strength of really good teammates to make it happen. And I can't do it. And now is our sport really the depth of riders. You can't just have, you can't just win on your own. You really need the strength of a team in order to battle like a team like SD Works or Trek or other people that have the depth of riders on their rosters. So I just really believe in that. And then, I mean, you spend so much time with your teammates on and off the bike. If the team environment and culture isn't good off the bike, when you're spending all these, what's supposed to be restful moments, if they're not restful, if it's in angst or whatever, that's not going to promote good performance on the bike either. So, yeah.
So what do you do to build out that team dynamic, because like you just said, you win because of the team. It's so important that everyone works together and knows their roles and knows. I love how you're using Myers-Briggs testing to see how is each person showing up, and what does each person need in order to, how do we all fit together? What are
Right.
some of the things that you do to build that team dynamic so that you can keep winning?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it will always change with each team, because no person is the same, right? And I think when you also in cycling, when you can have, so I get to be a leader sometimes, but I get to be the teammate in other times. So when I can show up to my teammates and show them how to be a good teammate and bleed out of my eyeballs for others, right? I think sometimes the best way to teach is by example. And then, I think also it's trying to find what motivates people, that and what gives them confidence that's off the bike as much as it is on the bike. Because I think when we're whole people, when we're, individuals that are healthy and whole, then we're going to be able to give more, to the team on the race day. So I do try to find, get to know my teammates a little more than just, what's going on the bike. To find, we mentioned before, the why we do what we do. And also being an encourager. So by noticing, we're going to be very critical of ourselves as athletes, and also as a team. We're going to have to be critical of each other, of how we're performing, so we can get better, but also to be able to point out the good things, and to point out those things to others as well. It's a little bit easier sometimes to notice mistakes rather than notice some of these good things. So to try to notice the good things and then build off that. Like, I saw you do this really well. Now what about try it this way? Or to keep it positive and encouraging, and motivate each other.
Nice. And what's your current team dynamic like? Do you have people from kind of all over the world, or is it predominantly a number of riders from the same country? What's your current kind of team dynamic like?
So I've been in a lot of other international teams where there hasn't been other Canadians, or I was the only English speaker on when I was on this Italian team. It was half Italian and half Russian, and that's,
oh my.
I have so many I say that I'm a really good dinner guest because of that year. I have so many stories from that year. This year, what's really fun is that there's quite a few Americans and Canadians, and what's nice about that is that we come from even the same humor or the same reference points, or maybe in our breakfast box. So the team will have a breakfast box of kind of our favorite things that we'll have, for snacks, or before we when we eat breakfast before the race. And in our breakfast box, we'll have maple syrup, which is just, there's just a few things that we're more alike. So the communication is easier that way. But when you get people from other countries, you get really different perspectives. And I think that's when you can use those different perspectives. If you all had the same perspective, then none of us are going to grow and learn. So when you bring people from other countries, you can it challenges the team, and sometimes it makes the communication a little bit harder because maybe we want things different ways. But if you can really bring out those differences, the good parts, take the best parts from all those different opinions and places people come from, then you have a better team and a better approach to the race.
So what were some of the things you learned when you were with that Italian Russian team?
Oh man. Well, that team is pretty old school. So if you didn't do well in the bike race, you were riding home. And I remember this one. We were in Tour Norway, so it's 4 days. The first day, I still think I finished 20th, So that was pretty good for to a lower level or mid-level team. But the whole day it was just on the cusp of raining. Is it going to rain? Is it not going to rain? We finished the race. It was just sprinkling a little bit, but we missed the rain, and you can see in the distance just this wall of like rain coming, and it's just coming. And we're like, oh, I'm so glad I missed that. I'm already getting undressed, getting ready, and then I look and I see all my other teammates are still on their bikes, and then I was like, what are they doing? Like, the rain's gonna come, like, you should get dressed. But this is one thing that I sort of missed because I'm the English speaker. I didn't understand the situation that was going on. But basically, the director was not happy that none of them had made the front group into this final circuit. And so he was going to make them all ride back to the hotel, which really wasn't that far away. Maybe it was 30K, but they had to turn around from in the dry and head straight into this wall of rain.
Oh no.
Like, I was like, I can't believe this. The thing is, they go in and they're just in this torrential downpour of rain. The police stop them because they're like, are these your athletes? This is so dangerous. You have to put them in the car. So now they're totally soaked. They have none of their extra clothes with them. They have to jump in the car all wet and then drive the rest of the way to the hotel.
Oh my. That is a wild story.
And that was only stage one. We still had 3 to go.
Oh, wow.
So needless to say, they made the front group, I hope, the other times, so they were not going through that again.
Yeah, for sure. That makes riders better doing stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely the old school mentality. I don't know if you could get away with that in this day and age. What year was that back then?
It's only 2017. It's really not
okay, so maybe not that long ago. Oh, that's wild. I'd love to hop into a little bit about like kind of the lifestyle and kind of the things around training of like kind of what life as a pro cyclist looks like. So maybe could you run us through, like, for our listeners, I'm sure they'd love to hear like maybe what kind of a day in the life of a pro cyclist looks like, maybe like an outside of race season, then maybe an example of a day kind of like a race day. What does that look like for you, including all the maple syrup?
Yeah, always maple syrup. Yeah, yeah, I think sometimes like the training days can be a pretty glamorous life. We just get to ride in new places and it's beautiful and whatever. When we have the nice weather, injuries, and maybe it's just like exploration ride, not those kind of like deep hard intervals or whatever that you have to do, no matter what. On the third day, you're on the third day of a big block and they have to do all these things. But yeah, and I think it also depends, the daily schedule depends on basically what country I'm in. So when I'm in Spain, so I live in Girona, Spain, for most of the season when the racing is all in Europe. And the culture here is really like we're waking up at 8, 9, start riding at 10, 11, but then restaurants and things for dinner don't open until 8:30, and people are having dinner at 10 p.m. So then my schedule also shifts to sort of adapt to the when you can go to the stores basically. But yeah, I usually plan my routes and take a GPX file, because I try to ride a new road every ride.
Cool.
And this is you can get like the Wanderer app. It attaches to your Strava. Yeah, you know about it. Well, sometimes I get too obsessed with this, but I always try to find like new roads or different places and get more like a higher percentage of how many roads I've ridden in my neighborhood or my towns or whatever. But yeah, it keeps it fun. It keeps me focused on why I'm doing some of these rides, like to see something new, something. Yeah, sometimes if you don't have a reason to go down any of the roads, yeah, you don't know what you're missing. But you've seen some real beautiful things. I've also hit some really rough roads that my friends have questioned their friendship with me, why we go down these. But yeah, it'll be just like long ride. A lot of times we have like lunch on the bike, depending how long the ride is. Average kind of 4 hours, sometimes shorter when it's a rest day or longer when it's a big endurance sort of day. And then yeah, hit up the recovery, shakes usually, and shower and a recovery meal is pretty big. And then it's good time to take a nap or put your legs in those recovery boots. And yeah, and then out here when I'm in Europe, then that's usually when everyone wakes up across the pond in Canada, and then get a catch up with some friends and family. And then yeah, I always have like an office hour or two. There's still a lot of admin sort of stuff that you have to do even as an athlete. So yeah, it's kind of a typical day.
Now, on the bike, when you say lunch on the bike, one of the things that you demonstrated is that you smash up a poutine and you put it in a waffle iron and you take poutine waffles on the bike. Do you actually do this? And is this a part of your bike lunches?
Yeah, so my roommate in Canada, she really had wanted these like this mini waffles, and she got this little mini waffle maker, and I thought, oh, it's like the perfect size to put stuff in your pocket. And then I just started experimenting, like what can we put in this little waffle maker. But for sure, we made some sweet cakes. We also made the poutine waffle, and yeah, actually, on the bike ride, it was hard to keep the gravy hot when you put it on the poutine. But yeah, otherwise, it was a pretty good little salty snack, actually.
And the pancake pockets, that's one of our faves, to throw like pancakes in a Ziploc
Yes,
bag. I saw you nailed that one too. And you got the quads to keep it warm as well. What a genius
yes,
move that was.
yeah. Pancake pockets also good. Also, sometimes like I like to, right? It's like you take the Stroop waffle cookie, the Dutch cookie, or there's a coffee shop in Girona here that sells these cookies that have like a filling in the middle. Well, an hour into the ride with that cookie on your back pocket getting a little warm, and you take it out and that middle is just oozing. Oh, the sweaty cookies, nothing better.
Nothing like it.
Oh my, yes. That is the beautiful thing about biking, is it's just so much easier to do. We were like on a run today and you can't bring like anything with you, but man, biking is like the moving
Right.
buffet. Especially that's what they call in triathlon. The
Yeah,
moving buffet
totally.
is the bike. It's glorious. So good. So you're saying you're riding a lot of times like somewhere in the like 4 to 5, 6 hour range. So you, on average, in like a training week, you'd probably be doing something in like the 30 to 40 hours of cycling kind of range. Is that kind of a typical week?
It's probably a little more like 20, 22 hours on the bike. And then yeah, and then we do different kind of core strength training or some of that stuff around.
So is the team based out of there too? Like, are you riding with a lot of your teammates in Girona, or are people kind of sprinkled all over the map when you're not there together at races?
Yeah, it's always interesting with cycling. When we're with the team, we're really with the team just for racing, and then sometimes scheduled training camps. And then otherwise, yeah, we'll even have our own individual coaches. They'll be connected with the team. But yeah, our individual coaches, and then yeah, basically we have to show up at the races fit. But we're not doing that in a training together sort of situation. I'll ride with a lot of other riders or pro riders, friends from other teams, or but yeah, that was something that was really different coming from university, like track and field, where you're training with everyone, you're doing the same mileage, you're doing the same workouts, but then you also have that camaraderie, like, or pushing each other in the training, that yeah, you really have to seek that out yourself when you're a cyclist.
Yeah. So you would have like your team kind of performance director who would be like keeping an eye kind of on your rides and giving you feedback and stuff like that. Nice.
For sure. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, in Girona, man, you have like all the pro triathletes. I see all their stuff there. That looks like such a wicked spot. We want to move there. So you'll have to give us all the routes, and we do eventually.
I'll show you all the hot spots.
Yes, exactly. It looks like such an awesome spot. I'm always jealous. Oh man. So are you someone who like, I find athletes definitely like different stuff. Some love the like just the journey of being out for a bike ride. Some really love the data side of things. Like do you really love like jumping into the data across all the heart rate, power, stuff like that? Or are you someone who is more like, I'll let my performance director take care of that and I'm just gonna go and hit it? What do you where do you kind of stand on that?
Yeah, I am not a data person at all. And I ride with passion and heart, and I also train that way too. But the science part is super important, and that's why. So I partner. My coach is really into the data, um, as a physiologist, and he's connected with a bunch of other coaching and new testing, or he's always looking up the newest, latest, even training metrics. But what I really need to hear is the why behind what we're doing. And when I hear, I need someone to explain that there's a reason and a science reason, and that's been tested and confirmed, and there's a reason why we're doing this certain training. And once I know that, then yeah, I just, when I get into it, I leave all the data and numbers up to the coach to crunch, and I'm gonna, yeah, all heart when I'm riding.
One of the other questions that I had for you is, in one of your videos, you're talking about like what you eat in a training camp. We talked a little bit about, poutine in your pocket, and you're a loud advocate for making sure that you're fueling enough. Cycling is famously one of those sports where, weight is a big topic. And I'd love to know how you've kept this healthy mindset and sort of performance first, sort of habits and actions in a world where weight is such a big topic.
Yeah. Yeah, and that it is something that's so like, yeah, an important part of our sport in one way, but can become so emotional and yeah, and abused. But yeah, really our biggest performance enhancer. Sometimes we're looking at like, beta fuels and nitrates or all these other things, but actually the thing that's going to get you to perform the most, that's so underrated, is the carbohydrate. It's actually like the best performance enhancer that you can get. And I think, yeah, we forget that when everyone's trying to look at these 1%ers, but there's some big gains that we can just make with like having topped up glycogen stores. And then I also, in bike racing, it's the other thing too. We can compare maybe my watts per kilo to someone else, but I'm still going to be beating them in the bike race, because it's not just about watts per kilo. It's where you use it and when. It's can you use it at the front of the group when you need to, or if you're behind the group and you're trying to use those low watts per kilo, or the high watts per kilo, you're still going to be behind me when I'm starting at the front. Yeah, and I think yeah, also for me, maybe I would say, if I can still win races, then I'm good, and but I think it also, it really comes from like a confidence that you have in the training and the program, and also just knowing that you're strong. Yeah, and I mean, we see so many times that yeah, the weight issue, it really is one of those, it's like a 1%er thing. There's so many other things that you can do tactically or in the bike race that are going to make a big difference, that yeah, to get hyper focused on that, it's never made sense to me.
Yeah, and carbs are life. They are, especially when you do endurance and hard racing like you do. That is the core fuel of it. So I love like how you share that message and how you underscore how you use fuel to make you the champion that you are. And you mentioned also that you train and you race with, heart and passion. I would say you live that way, and it comes through in even the way that you are all about people, and also storytelling, because that's such an incredible way that you connect with people. And you've brought up story at least once. And I know that you've already said that, life is just about collecting stories. And, cycling, you just, you just collect all these stories with bike racing. So you've talked a little bit about the one team, but I'd love to know, is there any story within your bike racing that is one of your absolute favorites?
Yeah. When I think this was 2019 maybe, but it was one of my first or early kind of spring, 2018 maybe. It was my first, kind of like really full spring classics block out here, and we're out reconning the Genwolvegem course, and they had just introduced these plug strats, which are basically just like dirt roads that they had put in this course. So we're gonna go recon this, and I had created, like, we didn't have a GPX file from the race. I just like created one on Strava where I thought, this from the road book to this, it looks like this is where we're going. Well, once we get to this point in the recon, then I'm like, okay, I'm doing a 10-minute effort, like just like through these gravel streets, like how fast can I go and manage these corners? And and then a teammate of mine, she was like, okay, well, I'm going to follow your wheel because I'm really good technically. So she just see if she can like follow my wheel on these gravel streets. So great. And as it is in the spring, it's March, it's raining a little bit. It had been raining, the days before. So it'll probably be like a little bit muddy on these dirt streets. So we're going, well, we turn, halfway through, or almost, through this 10-minute effort. We're going hard. We're going, taking these turns. Well, we go past this, we're taking a right turn past this farmhouse down this dirt road, and it's pretty bad, like, and it's pretty muddy. But like, I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's, the Belgians, yeah, they would ride this. And then it gets really bad. Now it's getting like, it's like the whole thing is just like it's like not even a road. It just feels like a farm trail where the tractor goes, and then it's like clay. It's like clumping up on my bike, but I'm still going full gas because I'm in my effort. The Belgians would do this. Yeah, for sure, this could be in the race. So if we're gonna race in this, better practice now. I'm full gas. I've got the disc brake, so like there's a little more clearance, my bike, so I can still like pedal. I get out the other side. I have like 1 minute left, whatever, and then I turn around and my teammate's gone, and then I think, like, did she make it through that muddy part? I go back, I see her, she's walking in the mud, but her wheels aren't turning. She had a rim brake bike, and it had clumped so much she couldn't even turn the wheels. And then I'm like seeing her face, she just has like not impressed look on her face at all. And I think, oh no, this is gonna be really bad. She comes out of the dirt and doesn't even look at me, takes her bikes and plops it in the ditch nearby that was full of water to try to get this like clay mud off her bike so she could turn it. I was like, oh no, she's gonna be so mad at me. And I'm like, are you okay? Like, what happened? She was like, are you sure this is like the road that we're gonna race on? And like, well, I think so. It was like on my map. I don't know. And then she's like, well, like, we went ahead of the rest of the team. Like, where are they going to go down that, or like, where are they going to go? And then also we were like, our mechanic is going to be pissed that these bikes are so muddy, and this is like the day before the race. Like, they're like, this is going to be, he's going to be so mad at us. So we're like, well, maybe we can go to like a farmyard and ask, because like this ditch wasn't doing anything. She was just getting like more grass and things like stuck in her bike. So then, okay, we're kind of in like the French part ish of Belgium, and I'm like, well, I'm Canadian, I can speak a little French. Well, not really. So we go to this one farmhouse, and I just say, excuse, which is, it's nonsense. I'm not even asking anything. And then just dillo, like water. Finally, the woman like takes us to like the horse barn where we can like hose off our bikes or whatever. And then anyway, we connect back with the team. They hadn't went on that road because that's not part of the course at all. It's actually just literally a farmer's field, a farm trail for the tractors to go to the field. There's like another like well, it's still not paved, it'd be a dirt road, but like a trail that's like proper that we were supposed to take, not this one. There was just like one parallel to it. And anyway, but when we got back, our mechanic was still like, oh, like, yeah, your bikes are kind of dirty. And we're like, oh, well, yeah, we had these like dirt streets that we went on, but he has no idea what they look like before. But really, what I love about this story is just that I just keep thinking like, oh, well, the Belgians would do this, so like, we're gonna do it. There was no question in my mind that was like, are you sure this is in the bike race? I was just gonna
be riding through barnyards and being like, yes, this is the course.
Yeah.
Did your teammate forgive you?
She did.
Okay, so all's well.
The race was easy after that.
Yeah.
Exactly. in the end, we just chalk it up as a great story to tell. So
I
yeah.
love that story. See, it's amazing that you get all these wonderful stories to collect. And I love that cycling's such a big part of your life. What do you do outside of cycling? Outside of creating these wonderful dancing videos?
Yeah, I mean, that is probably, I mean, I am really quite public about like the other side things that I do, but yeah, I love to take little dance classes or basically just like try to copy, mimic, TikTok dances and stuff. And um, but I also love to host dinner parties. But I love to like bring people from like all different parts of my life. Some Canadian friends that aren't cyclists, and then I have Spanish friends that are just want to practice their English, and you try to bring all these people together just to mingle about. And sometimes that ends up being in a dance party or just like playing some silly games or whatever. I love being a connector or bringing people together. I also love a good coffee. Um,
You're a proper
and
cyclist.
proper, yep. Um, yeah, and also just like exploring. I love seeing new places, meeting new people. Yeah,
What's
that's
on the
pretty much.
menu at your dinner parties? So if you're hosting them, what
Mhm.
do you cook or what do you bring in?
Yeah, so a lot of times we make it like potluck style, and then it's always interesting. Everybody from different cultures, what they're gonna bring. Um, and in Spain, a lot of times that comes like this. Like we really make like the best charcuterie boards because here everyone loves like smoked meats and but also I was making these gourmet sandwiches. So basically what we have this bakery that's nearby that's the best. But then, I take like the biggest baguette that I can get. You dig out the middle, but then you just like layer it full of like I might make like a tapenade where it's like olives and artichokes and squeeze, basically press it into the bottom, and then you layer meats and cheeses, and then you when you squish it together, it just like soaks in the bread, so then it becomes this like, yeah, Italian sort of sandwich. Or then I always make a vegetarian or a vegan option one that's like it'll have like all these like greens and veggies and hummus and things in it. And the sandwich, so probably for us Canadians or Americans, like that's a pretty normal, like, okay, yeah, it's a great sandwich. Just, we can appreciate a great sandwich. But Europeans or like Spanish people don't eat sandwiches. It's not really like a thing.
Hmm.
So then when I was like pulling out the sandwich, and then people would just be like mind blown for how good a sandwich is. And it's so funny, something that I would think is like so normal or regular um, is so special or different to someone else. So that was pretty fun.
It's a cool part about bringing everyone together, though. I think Mark and I are inviting ourselves to your next dinner
Yes,
party. Those sandwiches sound unreal.
absolutely.
I'm hungry.
um, okay, 2023. You've started out the year, racing multiple times in the weekend. What does the rest of 2023 look like for you? I know I see there's like a fun Slovenia trip that you're doing in, late spring.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to yeah, dabbling in a couple of other side projects this year. And one of them is, yeah, I'm partnering with another woman. She has her own tourism business, the Cycling Center, and she's from Calgary actually. So, and she's been hosting tours for a long time, taking people over to Europe to ride, some of the famous climbs in France or up to Norway. And I had met her on a Cycling Canada project a couple years ago, and one of the kids had asked me what's one place in Europe that you really want to go to that you haven't been to? And I was like, Slovenia. And everyone's like, Slovenia, where is that? We've never heard of it almost. And I was like, that exactly. It's such an underrated country, but it's beautiful and there's so much wilderness in it. And I find coming from Canada, we can find so much wilderness. And in BC, there's just so many places in the woods, and you can get away from people and you're just in nature, and it's beautiful. In Europe, that's a little harder to find. It's very populated, but Slovenia, just beautiful and such the natural landscapes are still untouched, and you can really get into the woods. But it has such a there's rolling hills and farmland. There's a whole wine region in Slovenia that's near Italy, and then you get really big mountains that are near Austria. And then in Slovenia, there's so many caves, more caves than in any country. And they have this really big cave that has a train that you can go in, and it's like 24 kilometers long. The caves, but they're huge, these huge caverns, and one they have like this big chandelier in it, and it's unreal that you're underground, and things that I've never seen before in my life. So anyway, yeah, so Slovenia. So then I decided with her we were gonna plan a tour and take people to see Slovenia. So yeah, that'll be May 25th to June 1st that we're doing this. And yeah, basically I'm just excited to show people my favorite parts of Slovenia, to eat some really delicious dumplings, and the different breads that they have there, and this lake bled cake that they've made over 1 million, or they sell like 1 million pieces of this cake in a year, because everyone goes to this lake to have this cake. So I think that's really fun, and I've been trying to find more ways to have touch points with fans, because I find in Europe, if you live in Europe and you come to bike races, then we can have these kind of touch points. But I find, we think athletes can be really inspiring humans, but I think my best way to do that is really by meeting people and being able to get some of that, my joy, spread across to other people. And I know when I was a kid, if I could have met an Olympian, that would have been the coolest thing. And now when I think of, actually that's me now, even though I just see myself as a regular person, but to remember what I would have felt like as a kid to meet an Olympian, I just want to create more moments that could be really cool for someone else, and to challenge people, encourage people to come from small towns that had nothing to do with bike racing and achieve more than what you could have imagined when you were younger, through saying yes to opportunities and working hard and being a kind person. So I'm just looking for more ways to have touch points with fans. And so to do a bike tour like this could be a really fun way to do that.
That's wonderful. That's actually a good segue into the next question I wanted to ask you, which is like, what does future Alison Jackson look like beyond 2023? Like, what are some of your big goals for both cycling and life?
Yeah, I mean, I really want to get one of these World Tour wins, especially in the classics. A Tour of Flanders, or again Wevelgem, or a Paris-Roubaix. And I really I loved being national champion. That will always be like a top goal for every year. And then we're working really well together as a national team. We did a great job pulling together a team of committed athletes for this last World Championships, and I think we're just going to build on that. So to dream of being on that World Championship podium, getting that rainbow jersey. I for sure in 2021 I checked off a lot of big goals, and so what do? We don't just stop there. We keep adding to that. So and then I mean, I love what I get to do. I love bike racing. I love the chaos still. I love the game that we play, and I think I can really still be a difference maker to my team. So then I think I want to keep doing this for as long as I still can be that difference maker, and as long as I still love it. But and I think when beyond that, I think there'll be a lot of opportunities that come just as I keep going in this career. I love being on on this team, EF Education, TIBCO, SVB, for the brands that we partner with are really interested in storytelling, and the media team is awesome. And I really have an interest in kind of that storytelling through video, and, you know, maybe with making these connections, and with the brands like Cannondale and Rafa that just really want to have connections with the community and bring out some storytelling. Yeah, so I hope we can make some partner up and make some cooler, kind of bigger video projects.
Well, we look forward to seeing that. Well, we invited you on because you're an endurance icon to us. You're so authentic. You have so much joy that you bring to your cycling and to that connection with people. And also you're just, you know, killer cyclist. Would love to know, who's your endurance icon and why is that?
Yeah, Svein Tuft. He's a legend in cycling, and not racing anymore, but the legend will live on. So I'm going to keep pushing the legend of this types of stories that his life story has, for where he came from and how he became a pro. But he also had a very unconventional pathway into professional cycling, and he really had a long plan. He set out, you know, in professional cycling, sort of with a 10-year plan of trying to build on year after year to get to the top level. But he would be a guy that, I mean, he would go on these long mountain adventures with just himself, riding into the wilderness of Alaska. And some of my favorite stories are when he signed with the World Tour team. He signed with Garmin, but he said, you know, like, I'll do this and I'll wear suits on the bus, on the plane to these races. But like, when it comes off season, I just need to be able to disappear into the mountains. Like, no one email me, no one expect anything from me. I just need to be in the mountains. And then, okay, they say, yeah, it's fine. So it comes off season. Sure enough, he disappears. No one hears from him or sees anything of him until he comes out of the mountains and at team camp, and he's so tan and buff and ripped because he's been rock climbing, he's been doing all these things in the wilderness. And it's just like these stories of this guy, just of resiliency and of testing all sorts of you know, even fueling sources for himself, or how he was going to train, or how he was going to use, you know, like rock climbing or skiing or other ways to have fun and gain fitness and keep a balanced lifestyle while being a pro bike racer. Yeah, so I just love his life balance and his approach to life and to exploration.
I love that. And so there's such a common theme in anyone we talk to on this podcast, is that like joy and fun needs to be a part of what you do in order to compete at a high level. And arguably those who have the most fun do the best. So thanks for sharing that. And thank you for coming on today. For anyone who's listening, where's the best place for them to follow along with all of your amazing videos and the incredible things that you have ahead?
Yeah, Instagram is the best place to follow me, at Ali Action Jackson, ALI Action Jackson. All my best TikToks go over there, but there's some exclusive TikTok content that's only on TikTok that is just kind of for kicks and giggles for me. But yeah, that's
those channels, everyone.
Yeah.
We'll link to that in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a total pleasure to be able to talk to you.
Yes, well, when I get a chance to tell a story, I'll tell the story.
We love it.
Thank you.
Wow, how great was that? I always learn so much from these endurance icons. If you enjoyed the podcast as well, please consider liking us across social media, subscribing to us on YouTube, or giving us a 5-star rating on wherever you listen to your podcasts. We appreciate you and your support so much. We wish you happy training, and we'll see you back next week.